Ms. Bhumiha.
Mrs. Speaker, may I have your permission to address question 54 and question 68, filed by LO Mr. Pritam Singh, scheduled for today's sitting, together with the PQ filed by Mr. Saktendi Supaat for tomorrow's sitting together.
Please go ahead.
The stated objective of legislating age limits for social media access is to protect children and youths from its harms. We share the same objective and will continue to study the effectiveness of mandating age limits. For example, how will the authorities assess the extent of violation? Where will the line be drawn if younger users turn to accessing unregulated platforms or services? We are engaging our Australian counterparts in social media platforms to understand their views. This will help inform our thinking on the next steps. In the meantime, we have taken several steps to protect our children on social media. In 2023, we introduced the Code of Practice for Online Safety. It requires designated social media services to put in place measures to enhance the safety of Singapore users, including more stringent measures for children. Among other obligations, they must ensure children are not targeted to receive content that is detrimental to their physical or mental well-being. They must also have more restrictive account settings for children and provide tools for parents to manage their safety. We have also taken decisive steps to require the implementation of age assurance methods, which have grown in availability and effectiveness and can help to minimize children's access to harmful online content. Such methods include age estimation using technology and age verification based on submission of official documents. Our upcoming Code of Practice for Online Safety for App Distribution Services will require designated app stores to put in place such measures to ensure that children access only apps that are appropriate for their age. Even as we consider further steps to improve protection for children online, we are mindful that research findings on the impact of social media on children are not conclusive. While it has been linked to mental health issues, social media has also been shown to help children develop social skills and build connections with their peers. That is why we have stepped up complementary efforts in public education to equip and educate parents and children on how to be safe online. We do this through cyber wellness lessons in the Ministry of Education's Character and Citizenship Education (CCE) curriculum, as well as various initiatives such as Parenting for Wellness, launched in 2024 by Ministry of Education, the Ministry of Social and Family Development and the Health Promotion Board, and the Online Safety Digital Resource Kit on IMDA's Digital for Life DFL portal. These are complemented by efforts of industry and community partners such as Google's Be Internet Awesome program and Touch Community Services' First Device campaign. We are constantly looking to do better and I welcome members' and everyone's suggestions. Ensuring online safety is a whole of society effort and everyone can play their part.
Ms. Fu.
Thank you, Speaker. I have two SQ for MOS. The first SQ relates to your assessment of the adequacy of the current framework. I think Singapore's implementation of the Code of Practice for Online Safety is our key legislative framework now. So it depends on social media services such as Facebook, Instagram, TikTok to enhance social safety by a series of things they have to do. So I want to ask the MOS whether, what key insights, right, have been drawn from the compliance report that they have to submit as part of this framework, Code of Practice for Online Safety. I believe this is due by end of July 2024. So they would have submitted report to say what are the things they are doing and how do you think they are doing. Furthermore, I want to ask the government whether you think these social media companies are investing adequately in infrastructure, resources, expertise, and also leadership accountability to enhance their organization capacity to implement robust safeguards and also to respond effectively to incidents. So this is all about depending on social media platforms doing their job. The second SQ pertains to community involvement to nurture safe online practices. So given the importance of digital literacy and community involvement in nurturing safe online practices, how does the government view the role of community, particularly parents and also educators, in fostering such practices? What specific initiatives or frameworks does the government consider critical to achieving this effectively? Thank you.
MIS Rahayu.
I thank Member for her questions. On the first bucket of questions that she raised relating to the designated social media services, indeed the whole intent of having them submit the annual online report is to provide transparency on their measures and levels of safety, to see what they're already doing in this space, helping us also understand what are some of the features that can be put in place to provide the safeguards. These reports are in, but IMDA is still in the midst of assessing these reports, and we plan to actually publish this, so that will be coming in soon. So with this, indeed, we will be seeking to learn from this exercise, and we'll look to improve the safeguards and processes. With regards to the second bucket of questions that you have in relation to role of parents and the community, as I mentioned earlier, it is a whole of society effort. This is something that we need to do together. The government is looking at how we can enhance regulatory measures, but we also are strengthening on our public education efforts. And this gives me the opportunity to share some of the work that we've already been doing in this space. These efforts include the National Library Board's SURE program. I think that's something that you'll be familiar with, because that's something that has been launched in 2013 to strengthen Singaporeans' resilience to misinformation and online falsehoods. We've also more recently launched the IMDA's Digital Skills for Life framework, which was launched in January 2024. It identifies a set of skills to equip Singaporeans to carry day-to-day tasks online, including staying safe and smart online. We are also looking at equipping parents with the skills to guide their children on online interactions. And IMDA offers many bite-sized resources on the Digital for Life portal. So one example is the Online Safety Digital Resource Kit, which was developed in collaboration with technology companies and recommends the necessary parental controls and safeguards to protect their children's safety online. We also work closely with other ministries, with MOE, as I mentioned earlier, in their CCE curriculum. The cyber wellness lessons are important to teach the children how to be safe, respectful, and responsible users of digital devices. MOH also has the guidance on screen use in children, which we will continue to update and revise, and to empower and equip parents further to build strong parent-child relationships, strengthen their mental well-being and emotional resilience through this digital journey. MOE, MSF and HPB also launched Parenting for Wellness initiative in September of 2024. So this also brings together resources to help support parents in this journey. And my ministry, MDDI, will also introduce the Positive Use Guide on Technology and Social Media in the first half of this year. So these are the different initiatives and efforts that we're putting in place to hopefully strengthen communities' ability to also walk together in this journey in safeguarding and protecting our children.
Ms. Fu.
Thank you, Speaker, for indulging. Since not much, I get at this stage, Minister is not able to review the findings. I would just like to ask whether the government will consider, depending on the outcome of the compliance report, whether the government will consider insisting on a minimum standard of investment by these social media platform in terms of the way they can respond, KPIs for them, leadership accountability, so that they do put in the necessary investment and capacity to take these obligations very seriously. Thank you.
MIS Rahayu.
Thank you for the further question. Indeed, these are things that we can continue to review as we see what have been the efforts that are put in place. But just to clarify, the online safety code had already put in also certain things that the designated social media companies need to comply with, and if not, they will also be subject to penalties. And this include putting in place systems and processes to minimize presence of harmful content in the services, particularly for children. And it includes establishing community guidelines, enforcing them, providing users with access to tools to manage their own safety, and proactively detecting and removing child sexual exploitation and abuse material, as well as terrorism content. So there's already kind of like a basic thing that they have to do. Secondly, they're also supposed to provide an effective and easy-to-use reporting mechanisms for Singapore users to report harmful content or unwanted interactions on the platform. So as we continue to do this, there are already some stringent measures that we have put to the designated social media companies to comply with, and we'll continue to improve these.
Mr. Pritam Singh.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to thank the MOS for replying to a variation of the question that I asked. MOS referred to the Australian example, and just a few weeks ago, the Australian Internet Commissioner, who is really overseeing this piece of legislation, which is supposed to come into effect this year, towards the end of the year, I understand. She was quoted as saying, "The onus to date has been falling on parents and the children themselves, and this law is the government making a very definitive statement and saying, we need to put the burden back on you, companies, just like we did with car manufacturers 60 years ago with seat belts. And now there's so much life-saving technology in our cars that we take for granted. Back then, car manufacturers pushed back, but now they compete on safety. The law is really aimed at making normative change that the owners should fall on platforms." I mean, this is one fragment of a larger interview she did with National Public Radio, or at least reported on National Public Radio. With regard to the online safety code that MOS spoke about vis-a-vis IMDA's conversation with social media platforms, is the government of the view that in Singapore, at least, these social media companies actually respond quite proactively to the requirements that the government puts on them with regard to online safety? What is the position in Singapore vis-a-vis that relationship with social media companies? Thank you.
MS Rahayu.
I thank the member for the question and the insight. Indeed, we are learning robustly from different countries. They're all having different experiences, and some of the experiences are useful in informing us as to the actions we need to take in our space. In Singapore, we have had a very collaborative approach that we've taken with the technology companies. We have been very stern and strict in making sure that they comply with some of the requirements that we have set forth, but we also want to ensure that this is something that can be sustainable and meaningful. And with regards to the question on whether they have been putting in the necessary safeguards, I think this is the whole point of the exercise with the annual reports, because it is going to be a continuous iterative process. We have, based on what we have learned so far, put in the requirements that we think are necessary for the social media companies to put in place. We constantly engage them to make sure that they comply with this, and the report actually provides the transparency, gives us that opportunity to assess whether they have done well. We are still in the midst of actually reviewing this, and when we assess this, this is going to be the foundation of how we can then move forward in either strengthening levers or actually seeing what are the other measures that we can put in place to provide the necessary safeguard and protection for our children.